Hostel Part 2, a 2007 American horror film written and directed by Eli Roth, which follows three American students, Beth, Whitney and Lorna, who are convinced to go and try out a luxurious spa in Slovakia, where they end up staying in the notorious Hostel. The second installment in the franchise follows not just from the victim's perspective, but also the villains, where we learn a lot more of how this disturbing organization works. This movie has even been banned in a few countries, where the movie had to make quite a few cuts in order for it to be accepted. So if you think the first movie was gory, wait until you see this one. So get yourselves comfy and let's take a look at 10 moments from the movie Hostel Part 2. Number 10. Paxton's Nightmare. The movie begins with main character Paxton from the first movie in a hospital bed recovering after his ordeal. While he is there, two investigators come in to question him about the hostel and the underground dungeons. He tells them everything that's happened to him and his friends, telling them how it's some sort of club where all the members have certain tattoos. When the lady asks Paxton how he managed to survive, he just tells them that he just somehow managed to escape. The woman investigator starts talking to the man in a different language and something just doesn't seem quite right. The woman tells Paxton that a dead body was found at a train station and she says that he was on that very train. Next minute, the male investigator shows Paxton his tattoo, asking Paxton if the tattoo looked like this. Paxton starts to scream and then the guy stabs him with a blade and starts to rip open his whole body. He then starts to pull out Paxton's organs and then Paxton wakes up. It was all a nightmare. Number 9. Paxton is killed. Carrying straight on from our last spot now, and Paxton is staying with his girlfriend at her grandmother's house, and Paxton is quite understandably suffering with PTSD. His girlfriend is worried about him and she tells him that he needs to go and get some help. Paxton starts to panic when his girlfriend tells him that her sister knows where they are. Paxton doesn't want anyone to know where they are hiding because there are so many people tied in with this underground torture chamber. Paxton then goes downstairs to take some medication. Next moment, it's morning time, and Paxton's girlfriend is woken up by the sound of a chainsaw. She goes onto the balcony and waves at the tree cutter. She then goes downstairs to look for Paxton, where we can hear some sort of dripping sound. When she gets to the kitchen, she finds Paxton sitting in the dining room chair with his head missing, and the pet cat is currently eating and drinking the blood out of Paxton's neck. It's absolutely disgusting and it really does catch you off guard. Paxton's head is then delivered to the boss of this underground business in a box. Number 8. Attack on the train. Students Beth, Whitney and Lorna are all on an overnight train. Lorna is quite a timid and innocent young lady who enjoys nothing more than writing in her mood diary and listening to music. Whitney is a bit of a party animal and Beth is more of the level-headed one of the three. When Beth and Whitney go for a drink, Lorna stays in her room carriage, but there is a creepy looking old man watching Lorna through the door. While Beth and Whitney are having drinks, they meet with some guys where Whitney drops a hint that she wants to buy some drugs. So they go back to this guy's carriage where there are other guys and one of them is even stabbing a knife on a table. Things start to get quite intense, especially when the guy can't find the drugs. And Beth and Whitney decide to leave, but not before getting into a blazing row with one of the guys. The girls storm off back to their carriage where they find Lorna on the floor upset because the creepy old man from earlier on has stolen her iPod. When Whitney goes to find a security officer, she sees the guys from earlier banging on all the doors looking for them. So the three girls hide in their carriage and it's a really intense moment. You honestly don't know what's about to happen and you genuinely fear for these girls' safety. Luckily, the model from art class earlier comes knocking on the door along with Lorna's iPod that fell out of the creepy old man's pocket. The girls then invite her in for a drink and like I said, it's just an unnerving moment where you honestly were really worried for these girls. Number 7, bidding war. This is when we get to learn a little bit more about this disturbing business. When the girls check into the infamous hostel, the reception guy takes their passports and he ends up photocopying them. Next minute, the girls are up on some sort of bidding website, a little bit like eBay. We then cut to many different scenes of rich people bidding insane amounts of money on these girls. I think the most disturbing part about all of this is how normal these crazy people look while they are bidding. At one point there's even a grandfather waving to his granddaughter on a children's ride just before he starts bidding. It's absolutely crazy. The winners end up being Todd and his friend Stuart, who end up winning Beth and Whitney. Number 6, Lorna's death scene. A very disturbing entry now in our next spot, and Lorna has been attacked and kidnapped, where she ends up waking up naked and hanging upside down from a hook. Next minute, in walks a woman who throws off her robe and walks into an empty Roman bathtub naked, just underneath where Lorna is hanging. This crazy woman then picks up this massive extendable blade, where she starts to cut and slice Lorna all over her body, and all of Lorna's blood is dripping and leaking on top of this woman in the Roman bath. The sounds of the skin ripping absolutely goes through me. The crazy woman then picks up one final blade and slices open Lorna's throat, and all the blood lands on top of this woman who is literally having an orgasm while she's bathing in this blood. It's really disturbing and it's really gross, and every time I see this scene I always wonder to myself, how on earth did the actress who played Lorna stay upside down for so long, because it didn't look like there was many cutaways, especially at the start of this scene. It's definitely a scene that could give you nightmares. Number 5, Todd is eaten by dogs. When the time finally comes for Todd and friend Stuart to come to the dungeons and act out their murderous fantasies, we are led to believe that Stuart isn't really up for this. Todd, however, he literally brags in the whole movie that he cannot wait to kill someone, but when he starts to toy with his victim Whitney, he ends up slicing her head open with a chainsaw. But this ends up freaking Todd out and he can't quite believe what he's done, so he ends up ringing the bell and tries to tell the security guy that he cannot go through with this. But the security guy tells him that he has to finish the job because it's part of contract. But Todd refuses to do it and he jumps in a lift, where he ends up breaking down on the floor. But when the lift gets to the next floor and the doors open, a load of vicious security dogs come running in and they start attacking and eating him alive. When the lift doors reopen, Todd's mutilated body is revealed while the dogs are just there left chewing on his bones. It's a shocking scene to see when those lift doors open, and it's definitely an awful way to die. Number 4, Miroslav is eaten by a cannibal. Another eaten one now in our next spot, and after Todd's brutal death with the dogs, the boss lady goes knocking on doors asking these random torturers if they would like to finish off poor Whitney. They knock on this one guy's door and he's like, yeah, maybe I could have it. And then the boss lady is like, okay, we'll ask around the others and let you know. This random guy then goes back into his room where we see Miroslav, the guy that Whitney had hooked up with earlier on in the movie. Miroslav is missing the bottom half of his leg, and this torturer guy is literally cutting his leg up, putting the skin and meat on the dinner plate, and he starts to eat it. Literally, this torturer guy is eating Miroslav while he is alive and working his way up, which literally, it must be the most painful thing ever. Literally so messed up. Number 3, Stuart is revealed as the crazy one. So as I mentioned earlier, Stuart didn't seem up for all of this crazy killing thing. At least that's the impression that the movie gives us. However, when Stuart is alone with his victim Beth, we learn that Stuart is actually the crazy one out of all of this. He punches Beth before he gets a knock on the door, and this is when Stuart realizes that his friend Todd is dead. So Stuart goes over to finish off Whitney, and he comes back to Beth covered in blood. It doesn't even bear thinking about what Stuart did to poor Whitney. we learn that Stuart is a little bit of a weak man in his marriage to his wife, and he has taken this opportunity to be a dominant man. Now Beth tries to sweet talk Stuart, and before you know it, Beth agrees to let Stuart have sex with her, where Stuart just turns into this evil dominating man because he's just too weak to stand up to his wife in the real world. Number 2, Beth becomes the killer. While Beth has Stuart on the ground, Beth ends up headbutting him and hits him over the head, and she manages to get him chained onto the chair. She then forces him to give the codes to the door, which ends up being her date of birth. Beth then smashes the security cameras and presses the bell. The security and the boss guy know something is wrong, so they all head down there with the dogs, and when they get there, Beth has Stuart's penis in a vice and is ready to chop it off. The boss guy then orders the security men to shoot. But then Beth shouts out that she wants to buy her way out of there. This gets the boss guy interested, but he tells her that she cannot afford the fee, to which Beth replies that there is nothing that she cannot afford. She says that she has accounts in Switzerland, Luxembourg and the Isle of Man, and tells him to give her a SWIFT number and a recipient name, and to name his price. You will have the money whatever it costs. The boss guy at this point seems quite impressed. He then tells Beth that money isn't everything. There is a contract that needs to be fulfilled. Everyone who comes to this place has to kill. It's at this point where Stuart calls Beth a stupid American cunt, and Beth then proceeds to chop off Stuart's penis, which is an agonizing, painful death scene to watch. Beth then throws the penis to the dogs, where the dogs eat the penis, and she storms out and tells the men just to let Stuart bleed to death. Beth then gets one of the famous tattoos and she is let free. What's interesting here is that this organization survives all the time because everyone who goes to this place has to kill, meaning that it's highly unlikely that they would ever be reported to the police. It's very messed up, but it's also very clever. Before we get to number 1, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We currently upload new videos every week and we are really looking to grow this channel, so make sure to hit that notification bell as well. Number 1, football with a twist. After Beth leaves the dungeon, she ends up paying those violent kids to steal Axel's bag, and Axel ends up chasing the kids all the way into the woods where a trap is laid. She trips over a tripwire and falls to the floor, and when she looks up, a hooded Beth appears with a massive hatchet weapon. Beth then proceeds to chop off Axel's head, and her head goes flying over to one of the kids' feet. It's at this point the group of young boys start playing football with Axel's head. It's absolutely messed up and so wrong on many levels, but you kind of let off a disturbing laugh when you watch this, just because it's so wrong. Watching a group of young kids playing football with a decapitated head. And that was 10 moments from the movie Hostel Part 2. So guys, let me know in the comments box below, which Hostel movie did you prefer? Hostel 1 or Hostel 2? For me personally, I love both of them. I think they're both brilliant movies, and even though Hostel 2 does go that much further in terms of the death scenes, I've always found Hostel 1 that much a little bit more gory. Just my opinion anyway, but let me know all your thoughts in the comments box below. Okay guys, well thank you all for watching, make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe, and I'll see you all again very soon.